I'm lucky to live right in the center of what I would call the Spanish moss belt. This is a wonderful place, but today I'd like to talk about a very misunderstood plant with some unusual characteristics. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Spanish moss. Hope you like it. The plant is native to the southeastern United States, all the way from Virginia across the south towards the Gulf states, and all the way down into South America to Argentina and Chile. It is neither Spanish nor is it a moss. The name Spanish moss is surrounded by legends, and there is one that is bandied about, and I'm not qualified to really tell it, so I'm going to let my cousin Pasquale, who's an anthropologist, tell you the details as he sees it.
So I'm going to tell you the legend of Gonzalez-Rothi. The guy was supposed to be sort of this bully Spaniard who had some money. So he goes out and buys this girl for a bar of soap from an Indian tribe. She obviously doesn't like it, so she runs away. He runs after her. She climbs up a tree. He climbs up after her. They get to the top. He's getting frustrated. She's so fed up she jumps off, dives into the water. He tries to go after her, and what do you think happens? His beard got tangled up in the branches. Branches break, or Gonzalez dies. Long after the maggots cleaned him up, there was his beard hanging up on the trees. That's the legend of Spanish moss. There you have it.
There is a second legend. One day, the beautiful wife of a young Native American warrior died. He was grieving her terribly, and just before he buried her, he cut strands of her hair and hung them over the branches of the tree on her grave. Many Indian tribes refer to the hair tree to refer to Spanish moss. There is actually a term called itla okla, which means tree hair. That's the second legend about Spanish moss. For many people, Spanish moss is a nuisance. It doesn't really kill the trees, but sometimes it can grow so thickly that it can obstruct the branches and having a not so nice appearance. However, Spanish moss is a home for many animals. Bats and Baltimore orioles and Parule warblers use the fibers of the plant to make nests. Zebra swallowtail butterfly actually sleeps on the branches of Spanish moss. There have been many uses for Spanish moss over the years. The Native Americans used it to make clothing, to make ropes, and to weave it into parts of objects and as mattresses for them to sleep on. When the Spanish conquistadores came, they started using the material for mattresses and seat covers, particularly because it repels moths, unlike wool, and it was rather cool to sleep in. Back in the 1800s, the Spanish moss industry became very intense in the southeast. In Florida, near where I live, there was one of the largest Spanish moss processing plants, and in fact in the 1950s the Spanish moss industry was worth about $500,000, which in the economy of that time was a lot of money. The plant that I'm speaking about actually burnt down back in 1958, and the industry has really gone downhill. The primary uses of Spanish moss right now are really for flower arrangements. Some people use them as mulch, although I personally don't think it's a good mulch. It has no nutritive value for animal feeds, so there aren't many other uses. However, Spanish moss, if processed correctly, can be used as packing material. And I don't know why it isn't used that way, because it would be a nice sustainable preference to polyurethane type plastics. Well, there you have it. That's the story of Spanish moss. See you next time. Oh, I forgot to tell you a couple of things. The first Model T Fords, the seats were stuffed with Spanish moss. And if you want to buy Spanish moss, I actually saw it advertised in Amazon. Who says money doesn't grow on trees?
Hello, my name is Goro